Can we speak up?
So I hope you will forgive my very poor pronunciation. Katangi te titi, katangi te kaka, katangi hoki oho. Welcome everyone, and thank you for being here today as we make our voices heard. We are migrants from across Aotearoa, New Zealand, and we have come here to say, please hear us. Our immigration system is broken. When we hear stories of 4-year-olds diagnosed with depression because of our immigration system not allowing children to be reunited with their parents, or 9-year-olds who pray every day that their parents would be granted residence. At 9, the word visa should not be in a child's vocabulary. But our children are suffering from our lack of permanent status here. And those stuck overseas wait every day, not knowing when they will see their families again. Aotearoa, New Zealand rightly aspires to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up. The best place in the world for families. A kind, fair place. We can and must do better than this for our migrant children and our migrant families. We, are no different from you. We long for peace and stability in our lives. It is within the power of this government to give us that, to ensure our children grow up without needing to worry about visas and residence and having to leave the only home they've ever known. The vigils around the country yesterday attracted hundreds of people affected and those who care about us. Those vigils and this protest are a call to action for this government, which is our government too, to stand with us and grant us the residence and reunification we long for. It is my absolute honour to introduce our Minister of Immigration, the Honourable Chris Barker.
Thank you, Charlotte, for the invitation to be part of your rally this afternoon, and acknowledge everyone who has made the huge effort to come to Parliament this afternoon. I want to acknowledge the difficulties that you have been facing, the anxiety, stress that the times have created. Can I also acknowledge that these are extraordinary times, which have placed unprecedented restrictions of travel across the world. And the government is mindful of the disruption that has caused to many, many lives. Where we can, we are putting in place solutions within the constraints of COVID border controls. And as frustrating as they are, these border controls and our managed isolation regime are what is allowing all of us here in New Zealand to function in the relative freedom that we have and keep our communities safe from the virus. We need that position of strength to support our country's recovery and the ability for our lives to return to some form of normal. And the COVID Pfizer vaccine rollout and opening up the quarantine travel-free bubbles with Australia and the Cook Islands are steps in that plan to return us to post-COVID normality. I can assure you that every day the government is looking at more ways to safely open up our borders, while making sure that we do that in such a way that allows our COVID health response and the people who are charged with delivering the health response to be able to cope. I'm sure there will be opportunities in the future to make further entry arrangements as the vaccine coverage adds protections for all of us, both here in New Zealand and in other parts of the world which are still struggling to contain the virus. And we will look to use these opportunities to help more of you in our migrant community. But I need to be realistic with you. And others will say, open the borders to everyone who has family here and wants to be reunited. But it is not that simple. Outside of the travel bubbles, we can be reasonably confident are safe, almost every border entry carries the potential risk of COVID. And keeping tight control of our borders and maintaining strict managed isolation systems is what is keeping us all safe. The reality of that is that we would normally have around 7 million people coming through our borders in a year. That flow is down to a little over 220,000. So that's the sort of massive disruption that's affecting not just your community, but a great many people in different ways across New Zealand. Now, to everyone here, I don't say that to dismiss the difficult situations that you and your families are facing. It is an acknowledgement of the enormity of the issue affecting all of us in very many different ways. And New Zealand is not alone. We obviously have other countries that have border restrictions, the likes of Australia, Singapore, the UK, Canada. They are all operating systems of control on who can and can't come into their country, while looking for opportunities, like here in New Zealand, to increase the numbers who can come in. So while I'm here to acknowledge the difficulties that you are all facing, I also acknowledge that I can't today bring you the news that you want to hear. We are acutely aware of the disruption that this is causing. And as I have said, we will continue to look at ways to adjust border settings to safely accommodate more people coming into the country. Again, I want to thank you and acknowledge the difficulties, but thank you for coming here. The concerns that you have. Thank you so much.